Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really complex, kind of painful, and honestly, something a lot of us struggle with completely in silence. We're talking about the psychology of badmouthing the exact people we actually care about. Look, have you ever had one of those nights where you just find yourself endlessly complaining about someone you love? It's wild, right? On the surface, you treat them great, but behind their back, you're kind of tearing them down. And the absolute worst part, once you start, it literally feels impossible to stop. You know you're exaggerating, you feel that guilt creeping up your neck, but you just keep going. It's such a confusing, agonizing contradiction. But stick with me, because today we are going to unpack exactly why this happens and, way more importantly, how we can actually heal from it. If you've ever felt that deep, hidden guilt after venting to someone, I really want to validate that for you right now. There's this quote, "I want to be loved, so I choose words that hurt." Wow, that just perfectly captures this agonizing contradiction we're looking at today. Because the strangest part about all this, the people who chronically badmouth their loved ones almost always know their good traits. I mean, they might even praise them to total strangers. Yet in these moments of frustration, the harsh critiques just take the wheel. You're probably sitting there thinking, man, why am I doing this? Am I just a fundamentally terrible person? The answer is a massive, resounding no. There is a profound, deeply rooted psychological reason behind this self-destructive habit. So why can't we stop exaggerating the flaws of others? We really need to stop looking at this behavior as some sort of character flaw or a sign of a bad personality. Let's toss that idea out the window. Instead, let's treat this like a fascinating psychological puzzle that we can solve together. When someone chronically exaggerates the negatives of their partner, their best friend, or a family member, they aren't doing it out of pure malice. No way. They are operating from a place of deep, unfulfilled needs. It's essentially a reaction driven by a heart that just hasn't been properly nourished. To truly grasp what's going on here, we need a complete paradigm shift. The true identity of badmouthing, it's not hatred. It's actually a desperate cry for someone, anyone, to understand our pain. Think about it. Have you ever turned a minor disagreement into this massive, epic betrayal just to hear friends say, "Oh my gosh, you are so right to be mad"? When someone just can't stop ranting, at the very root of their mind is this screaming desire that says, "Please, someone understand how hard this is for me." If you spent your life feeling like your genuine, real struggles were just totally ignored, your brain actually builds a backdoor. By exaggerating someone else's flaws, you're subconsciously trying to build a narrative that proves how terrible your situation is. You're just hoping someone will finally hand over that sympathy you've been craving your whole life.
And this brings us to a phrase that gets thrown around a lot: attention-seeking behavior. We usually hear this tossed out as a total insult, right? But psychologically speaking, it is actually a subconscious substitute behavior for affection. It happens when direct communication just feels way too dangerous. Just think about it. If every single time you genuinely said, "Hey, I'm struggling," you were met with rejection, anger, or betrayal, your brain quickly learns that being direct is a threat. So how do you get that love and support without risking the danger? Well, you talk about how awful someone else is. It's this twisted, survival-based strategy to ask for love. You're basically using the exaggerated badmouthing to safely say, "Look what I have to put up with, please tell me I'm doing a good job."
This dynamic creates what psychologists call the double approval trap. And to understand it, we've got to look at the subconscious mechanics driving the bus here. More often than not, this traces all the way back to childhood. If you grew up in a house where you only got love, attention, or care when you were sick, weak, or literally in trouble, your brain mapped out a very specific, stubborn blueprint. It learned, weakness equals love. So fast forward to adulthood. To get that exact same feeling of being cared for, you unconsciously manufacture these situations where you are the victim of someone else's exaggerated flaws. It literally becomes this ingrained go-to habit for securing love.
Which leads to this incredible, honestly kind of heartbreaking paradox. On one side, a personal broadcast, "I am so unfortunate, look at how terrible my partner or my family is." They're actively playing the miserable victim to pull in that sweet sympathy. But on the exact same coin, the other side is projecting, "Look how incredibly amazing I am for surviving this," right? They desperately want praise for their endurance. Now, to an outsider, it looks totally contradictory. Like, why stay in a miserable situation just to complain about it? But internally, it is a highly logical, ultra-efficient emotional engine perfectly designed to extract both sympathy and admiration from whoever is listening.
So a really crucial question pops up here. What happens if we just try to force ourselves to stop? What if we just say, okay, badmouthing is toxic, I'm just going to bottle it up and be quiet? Well, the physical and mental toll of that suppression is actually severe. Look, emotions don't just magically vanish because you swallow them. They just find a different exit. If you entirely shut down your only avenue for seeking comfort, even if it's a super toxic one, that suppressed energy is going to mutate. It can turn into dependencies, overeating, or very real, scary physical symptoms. We're talking high blood pressure, numbness in your hands, or this intense burning sensation in your chest. Suppressing the urge without addressing that root need, it's honestly dangerous.
And this brings us to probably the darkest corner of the emotional spectrum: love, hatred, and the family curse. See, if a stranger upsets us, we can usually just walk away, right? But family is a whole different ballgame. We are tethered to them, and the wounds created within our families are so incredibly difficult to escape because they're literally tied to our core identity. When you have spent your entire life trying to earn love from a family member, sacrificing your own needs, bending over backwards just to make them happy, and they still don't give you that validation, the pain isn't just sadness. It feels like an absolute crushing denial of your very existence.
This brings us to a really profound realization. That deep self-sacrifice and desperate desire to love, they are actually tied directly to intense hatred. They are literally two sides of the exact same emotional energy. Think about it. When you extend your hand to a family member, basically saying, hey, let's be happy together, and they just slap it away, that immense reservoir of love has nowhere to go. It instantly inverts. The intense desire to love, when it's violently rejected, naturally and powerfully flips into intense hatred. And that, right there, is exactly why family badmouthing carries such a terrifying, unstoppable venom.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, the answer is simple then, right? Just cut them off, run away. But I want you to consider this quote: escaping is not a solution, but merely a reenactment in another place. It hits hard, doesn't it? If you simply walk away from your family without resolving that massive emotional void inside you, you are basically packing up your subconscious blueprint and bringing it right along with you. Because your brain still fundamentally believes weakness equals love, or still desperately needs someone to rescue you, you're going to be subconsciously drawn to new partners or new friends who share the exact same toxic traits as your family. You don't actually escape the pattern, you just cast new actors in the exact same tragic play.
So how do we actually stop this? How do we break the negative spiral? We need to shift our focus away from all this internal psychological analysis and move toward empowering external action. If badmouthing is really just a substitute behavior for releasing pent-up frustration and seeking approval, then the key is to find a way to digest that emotional frustration without needing another human being to validate it, and obviously without hurting anyone else in the process. We basically have to retrain our brains to understand that it is entirely, 100% safe to feel our feelings without an audience.
Here are 3 highly effective, totally practical steps to do exactly that. Step 1. Write. Get a private notebook, one that literally no one will ever see, and dump your completely uncensored, darkest thoughts into it. Just let it out. Step 2. Talk. Speak out loud when you are entirely alone. Your car is great for this. Just let the words flow out into the empty space. And step 3. Move. Use a heavy workout or a really fast walk to physically expel that trapped emotional energy right out of your nervous system. These are what we call approval-free venting mechanisms. By doing these, you are actively teaching your subconscious that your emotions are totally valid all on their own. You don't need to extract sympathy from a listener just to feel safe.
Which brings us to our final takeaway for today's explainer. Noticing your pattern is already the first step. You don't have to be perfect, just start today. Look, if you are watching this and recognizing yourself in these patterns, please give yourself some grace. The very fact that you feel bad about it proves that you have an immense capacity for love and a genuinely deep desire to change. Don't worry about being perfect, just start today. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. The next time you find yourself tearing down someone you love, who are you really trying to talk to, and what are you finally ready to say to them?